Oh my gosh, Fred is huge.
Yeah.
We're on. We're recording. So we have this gecko in our room, and we've named him Fred,
Yeah.
and he is absolutely not. He's a lizard now.
Yeah, I was gonna say like an iguana. Like, dude, this guy, he is ginormous.
Yes. Speaking of iguanas, there's an island in Fiji that has iguanas.
No, what?
Yeah,
What
in
is-
Taveuni,
Okay.
the
Oh,
third largest island. There's like an invasive species of iguanas.
yeah, like the smaller ones, right?
I don't think they're that small.
No.
No, they're pretty big.
Oh,
I can't remember why. If you know why they're brought here, put a comment in. Because I can't remember what. There's some guy I think who brought them here, and then like they got out, and now they like multiplied. But the nice thing about islands is like things are isolated to the island.
it's kind of like the mongoose. Like, they brought mongoose into Fiji to kill all the snakes, right?
That's what. Okay, that's what I've been told. But like I think that's true.
Well,
This is what I've been told.
I'm happy if it's true. Kill the snakes
Yeah, for
and
sure.
leave the mongoose.
Leave the
Like, the
mongoose.
mongoose are, like, overrunning this place.
They eat chickens that we don't like, anyways.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, okay, anybody have a good explanation for this? Like, in our village, and I'm sure it happens across villages in Fiji, people love to allow the chickens to breed, and they do feel that there is a need for roosters, for them to lay eggs. And I think people want more chickens, but nobody eats them that often because they're not
Yeah.
very good chickens. They're like muscular chickens.
They're like the freaking Chris Bumstead of chickens.
Okay, I don't know what kind of reference that is. I don't know who that is. Anyway, let's just ignore Jonathan and just be like, they're tough chickens. And there's so many roosters, and I'm like, guys, either like have one rooster or let's not have roosters at all because we could still have eggs and like nobody eats these gross chickens.
I tried cooking a chicken once when an uncle of mine came, and I didn't really. My two uncles were out on the veranda, and they were drinking grog, and one of my uncles was like, "Hey, can you like kill a chicken and cook it?" This is just a couple years ago.
I thought this was a rooster.
Yeah, sorry, a rooster.
There
It was a
you go.
rooster.
Very big difference.
Okay, sorry. So, got the rooster, cooked it up, but I did not cook it long enough.
Now that bad boy needs to
Oh.
boil for hours.
My gosh, that was, yeah,
It was like
might as well not have
chewing
cooked
on
it. It was
bone.
so tough.
Like
It
it
was-
was so bad.
so tough.
I was like, never again. Why do we have these? But anyway, this is just such a random thing that they
It's just
woke
village
me up
life.
for years, and I'm just kind of like, guys, we don't need roosters. If you do, just keep one. They're
Yeah.
noisy and annoying. Actually, I think I hate them the most because people just leave their houses open. Doors are always open.
Just
And then-
poo.
There's just poo
Yeah.
everywhere.
Well, okay, poo everywhere is an exaggeration.
If I'm gone for the weekend
some
and I'm
places,
not here to
sometimes.
like shoo them out, the amount of scrubbing that I have to do to get the poo off the kitchen floor is astounding. So I'm gonna say poo everywhere.
True.
It's not for me, but yeah.
I've stepped in the odd poo in our house. What was your highlight from this week?
Oh, I'm not sure. Honestly, this week has been a blur. I think
Start with me.
oh, okay. What is your awesome thing of this week?
Well, we canceled our turmeric mission.
That's right.
So that was interesting, but it was definitely the right choice.
Oh, yeah. So we did, John was texting and pretty much live play-by-play last week on our podcast.
Yeah, what was I doing?
I can't remember.
Yeah,
Something about
right.
the shipment. Honestly, I'm blanking out. But
Yeah, that's
I
right.
just know after the fact that you said they were just such a headache. We can't rely on them. And we thought we were going to be taking a loss for a month until we built up to like 1 ton to 2 tons. And then we already had people saying they were going to give us 2 to 3 tons
this week.
for that. Yeah, for this week. And then all
It was
of a
supposed to be
sudden,
today.
Yeah, there was more of a headache.
Yeah, so long story and the backstory is there was a buyer on the other island that wanted to buy turmeric from me. He needed so much that I couldn't keep up with the supply. So I opened up the opportunity to buy everybody. And the deal was that he was supposed to help with the transportation, and he didn't. He basically went back on his word and didn't want to do what he said he would do at the beginning of our dealings.
It was
And
too hard. It was
yeah,
too difficult.
he wasn't willing to commit to having a few weeks of loss for whatever, an infinite amount of time of gain. So that's it. So I cut the ties in this manner, and we're going to do it ourselves. So I've had, not exaggerating, probably 3 meetings with different investment groups, a couple different NGOs. And so
multiple different meetings with people that are not NGOs and different things like that.
Yeah.
So
really, really exciting stuff. So here's our intention. Should I share it?
yeah, I don't see why not.
Should I talk about it?
We just talk about everything. So
yeah, that's
talk
true.
About it.
So and the reason I talk about it is it's because I don't believe that even if we planted, I don't believe that there is too much competition when it comes to overseas market access in Fiji.
No, competition is healthy.
We could plant this whole country full of cassava. We could plant it full of dalo. We could plant it full of turmeric. Name a commodity. It wouldn't meet the supply, the demand that's overseas. So the problem for us here being on a rock, like I always say, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, is the getting our crap to other people who are willing to buy it.
Our crap is also known as commodities and good things that we grow in this country.
Yeah. Getting our produce, name something that we have in Fiji that is wanted somewhere else. The problem is that the logistics are very difficult.
Yeah.
So our thing the last couple weeks was turmeric. We saw like a huge response from you guys about like, feedback like, yeah, we have turmeric. We want to bring it to you. And it started off, it started off like we thought it would start off. People were curious to see if we'd actually buy. First week was a little bit. Second week was built up. Third week we're talking in tons. And so we're like, okay, there's a market for this, but we have to skip these dishonest people who say one thing and then make us look bad in the end. Because like I always say, like, I will keep my word if I say something. But when it comes to like me saying that to other people, but then the person who's buying from me can't keep the word, that makes me look bad. And so, yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to pursue overseas market access for turmeric and cassava. That's going to be our main focus, to try to focus on the north in Fiji, because Fiji's remote and this island is even more remote than the main island.
Yeah.
And that means we'll have to get farmers to plant, which shouldn't be too difficult. And, well, I say that, but there will be some work involved in that, memorandums of understanding.
It shouldn't be relative.
Yeah, like once people see that we're actually buying, people will plant.
Yeah.
So doing that, and also building a processing facility. So a processing facility would basically allow us the opportunity to buy more than just A grade products of each. Like say if we just start off with cassava and turmeric, if people brought A grade turmeric, that's great. That can be packaged fresh and go and sit on a shelf in the USA, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, name a country. The B grade stuff, well, we could turn it into a powder and then sell it, and it could be used in supplements, in coffees, in curries, in whatever. All the things lotions, all the things that turmeric's used in nowadays. Cassava, same thing. The A grade stuff, we'd peel it, freeze it, ship it overseas to be eaten, to be boiled and eaten, however people want it. The B and C grade stuff, we would dry it and turn it into flour, because the cassava flour market is gaining super amounts of traction. Gluten-free, it basically holds up the same as flour. Apparently it makes great roti, it makes great pizza crusts and all this kind of stuff. So getting farmers to plant, obtaining overseas market buyers, getting farmers to plant, and then building a processing facility, of which all can be done. Just take some time. So I'm not going to waste anybody's time buying at 50 cents a kilo. Keep your turmeric in the ground, keep your cassava in the ground, and we're coming.
Yeah, and I think it's been interesting, like speaking to a few different people about what's the best way to go about this kind of stuff. We had a gentleman that we spoke to that was talking to us about going into starting a part of our business that's not for profit. I thought that was really interesting because it's not something that we've ever actually thought about doing, but he was saying it's the best way to be able to get grants. Fiji, because we're an island and other nations are willing to help out, have funding coming in and they want somewhere to throw it to, but they don't want to necessarily throw it at businesses. A lot of times they go to a not for profit. And a lot of the aid that comes into Fiji doesn't actually help people build sustainable life and reoccurring revenue. It's
Yeah.
a short-term solution to something that might have already passed by or might not be helpful in the moment, or is just kind of something they thought would be helpful, but the community doesn't view it that way. It was just something that they had deemed useful to the community. So we are kind
Does
of
it?
thinking, we live here. Hopefully we
Yeah.
know what our community needs. And we've been here so far seeing the struggles and struggling farming ourselves, and seeing, oh, there's no market. So people that don't mind working hard and don't mind farming and putting in that effort actually are having a hard time benefiting from the effort. And so if we could supply that for people, that'd be amazing. The other interesting thing that one of these companies were speaking to us about is, okay, well, rule is something that we're looking for, and also employment of women, which both John and I,
That's
love.
awesome.
We think that's great. Like our business in Canada solely right now employs women. We've hired a few guys here and there, but it's always predominantly been women.
Yeah.
The coffee shop that we have, we've got majority women. We've got a couple guys working for us. But, for us, we're kind of looking at like, well, who's having a harder time accessing work? And well, why not give it to women if they're, good at their jobs and, want to be there providing for their families? It's awesome. And it's nice as a couple, like both of us are on board with that. And I think turmeric's something we were just saying. Turmeric's a farming thing that a lot of women would possibly feel like they have more access to. There's stigma around farming cane
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
women.
It's not that you're saying the right thing. Like, it's not that like it's one of the things like turmeric's one of the things that women can farm. That's not can.
No,
It's not because women could
not
farm
can.
whatever. It's the
Yeah.
stigma. It's the cultural stigma around certain crops
Yeah.
in Fiji. Because like when I lived in Africa, women farmed. Women were the ones that were out in the field, and the men were not. They were the ones at home, usually wasting time in a lot of situations. And
Yeah.
so Fiji is not that way. There's a stigma around a lot of these crops, right?
Yeah. And I think like allowing women to feel like that market is open to them,
Yeah.
they might feel empowered to actually go out and do that. And again, we're not saying they couldn't be sugarcane farmers. There's just some walls, barriers for them to want to enter
There
into
are
that.
women sugarcane farmers.
There are, and
Yeah.
in our area, which
Yeah.
I'm like, cool. But I also look at sugarcane and I'm like, and to be honest, if I was going to jump into farming, not my first choice
Yeah.
for me. Like, looks a little painful, lots of slivers, not an easy job.
You're soft.
Yeah, I am soft. I'm soft and I burn easily, so please keep me out of the sun.
I just think this would be one of the most exciting things that not just that we could do, that could possibly be done in this area. Because I would say well over 90% of the population on this island would probably do or be involved in some sort of farming.
Yeah.
And so to have a processing facility that was run well and run like a business that needed to be profitable, so doing things in a way that makes sense, and not everybody drives brand new vehicles all the time, you know? Like being smart about the way we do things so that it benefits the community. Like the number of jobs that you could create in the processing facility and the number of people that we'd be buying off of.
Yeah.
I think that's like,
that would have huge impact. I think
yeah,
that's something that aligns with our goals being here is to
yes.
create employment for our community. And that seems to hit a lot of facets for like, okay, we're providing not just people that would work in the factories employment, but also farmers and their families and all the drivers, and there's so many facets to an operation like that. So
Yeah, like it touches a lot of people,
yeah,
this kind of stuff. Because there's things that don't make sense about, like, business sense about doing farming in this island. And I've talked about that on some content that we haven't yet released. But there are facilities out there that will fund and subsidize farmer transport from remote areas if they can go through a reputable business. Like if we set up a processing facility, there might be opportunities for us to subsidize farmers transport from remote areas through funding from NGOs,
yeah,
because they want to help, but they simply do not have people on the ground who are willing and have the capability and the transparency to be the hands and feet for them.
yeah. And
Like,
I would say, like, it's not a unwillingness on John and I's part to dive in feet first into this. Like, obviously we have to do a little bit more research. We need some funding, but I would say ultimately the biggest thing that always holds us back from anything is the administration in this country, the paperwork, and the process to get everything going. Even if we did it, if we funded everything ourselves, even that undertaking
yeah,
is a nightmare. And then to go through and get funding from any other agency, I know is going to be so very painful. So administration stuff is very much needed. We have someone in the background that, as things get rolling, we'll probably reach out to her and just see if we can get a helping hand with that kind of stuff. But I already know it's just going to be a hurdle coming at us.
yeah.
And,
Christine. What? Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think it's just something that we're gonna have to tackle, one paper at a time. But I know it's coming for us, and that is what's daunting. It's not the undertaking of dealing with farmers and getting an actual processing facility and all that kind of stuff. It's actually the paperwork
Yeah.
that I feel like, oof, that's a
Yeah. If
heavy.
anybody's got any, good contacts when it comes to setting up not-for-profit organizations in Fiji, let us know. Hit me
Yeah,
up at jonathan@wakafarms.com,
yeah,
because yeah, we need help in this area, and because, like, we simply do not have the funding to do this ourselves. But we also we need other people's guidance and assistance, not just with money, but ideas and contacts. Because people always say, like, in Fiji, and it's not just a Fiji thing. Like, so many things that we say in Fiji, like, well, this is Fiji. It's like, that's the world. Like, one thing you always hear here is, like, it's who you know.
yeah.
And it's like, it's who you know in a lot of places. It's just Canada's so big that, like, we don't have the possibility of knowing those people. So it ends up being, you just go through the processes. But in a small country, if you know the right people, it can make a big, big difference,
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
everything. Well, and it's hard, like, when you're going through this, like, we know that we have good intentions and we think that this is a good long term idea that can profit a lot of people, benefit, sorry, not profit, benefit a lot of people.
And
Well,
profit.
well, and hopefully profit
Mm-hmm.
everybody in the process. And it's been really great talking to different people that work in different sectors and their insight to some struggles that they've had or hurdles that will have to face in the future, and that kind of bringing that to mind when we're drawing out, a business plan with this. And we don't expect this to happen right away. We also have other things going on in the background that we're waiting for. We're currently actually working on serving pizza at our coffee shop, Fresh Tea+Coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's hopefully we can make a killer pizza. I think it's not bad so far, but it can get better. So we're just experimenting right now with the dough,
Yeah,
different
like
bread.
our pizzas easily destroy anything that I've tasted in Fiji. But it's a matter of, like, developing
Confidence.
no, it's a matter of developing a recipe that can be replicated over and over and over again.
Yeah,
So if you come one week for that pizza, you come 5 weeks later, you get the same pizza.
yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, I love that thing. You need to get the same one.
And I've been trying to, like,
Consistency.
figure out, like, there's some toppings that I just love, and like sauces that go on pizzas that I love. So there's some herbs that we can grow out the back, and use for different, like,
Some herbs, eh?
herbs. Yeah.
Jaman.
Yeah, no, not like that, like basil, cilantro, or coriander, as the Australians say. Things like that mixed in sauces for pizza, which would make it a little bit more exciting. So it's just hard because, not everything's always available at the market. So we're talking about, okay, well, we need to grow these herbs in the back to make sure that we have them all the time.
Yeah.
And then what are the vegetables that we can typically get all year round to make sure that we have it to serve on the pizzas, and how do we make it kosher for everybody, because there's a lot of different dietary needs from, like, there's a Hindu community, Muslim community,
Yeah, and like
there's
lots of
Seventh-day Adventists that have a lot of restrictions.
Yeah, and a lot of the Hindu community in our area, like they're vegetarian on like Monday, Tuesday, Friday, I think.
Yeah.
And then like a lot of the Islamic community, if you serve like a meat product that isn't
Halal.
halal in your store or in your restaurant, they won't even come into the restaurant,
Yeah.
even if they're ordering like a vegan pizza or whatever it is. Like the fact that like you've prepared food that is, not.
Yeah. So we got to make sure we don't have any of that in the
Yeah.
store. We want to make sure that our community feels welcomed into the store.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we have all their dietary restrictions worked out. So we're going to hopefully be testing pizzas in the next week here with our staff. And the funny thing is, I think we're going to make some pizzas and get everybody to eat it and then tell us their feedback. But I don't trust them, to be brutally honest. So we'll just...
Wow, you're saying you don't trust your staff?
No, I don't trust them to insult me and say, oh, I don't like your pizza. So I'll just watch which one they actually eat the most of and go, okay, well, that's a winner. And that's a winner.
Yeah.
Because I don't, like...
So here's what we should do. We should cut the pizzas into like small, like the test pizzas.
Yeah.
Like say we have the 3. We cut them all into like small pieces so that people like feel free to like nibble. And then we just see which one gets eaten the most.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Because I'm
we
like...
just figured that out, baby.
Yeah, well, I'm like, like it's hard for people to be like, well, this one's garbage. Don't ever serve that here. No Fijian will eat that ever. And we'll have this one. So
One thing we do need to figure out though is takeaway boxes.
I know. It's all the daunting. Hey, anybody got some pizza boxes that you know where we can get them?
Yeah, pizza get people boxes. People get pizza boxes from somewhere in Fiji.
Yeah.
So we just need to figure out where that is.
I'm sure. I think I have an idea, but it's just mostly like contacting and dealing with the headache.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Wish me luck, everybody.
Here we go.
Yeah. Anyway, this episode is sponsored by Fresh Tea and Coffee. Check us out in Seaqaqa. We're between Mombasa and Savo. If you're on a road trip, stop in. We're a quick stop and you're on your way, or you can sit in the AC or aircon, cool off, relax, hang out with your friends for a couple minutes. We've got sticky buns in the shop, coffees, juice, for now. And we're going to have pizza hopefully in the next month. So, if you ever just need a date, time out, get out there with your family, we're there for you. We open, I guess I should always mention our opening times, Monday to Saturday. We're open 7:30 to 9 p.m. We're open pretty late, guys. And then on Sundays, we're only open from 12 to 9 p.m. So hit us up after church or whatever you're doing on Sundays as well. So,
have you heard about this new huge project that's been proposed? $600 million hotel project in Nesese?
No.
This one? I'm showing Stephanie a picture on the phone right now.
Whoa.
It looks like something you see in Playa del Carmen, or in
I was going to say like
Cancun.
Miami or
Miami, yeah. Like,
beautiful.
This guy, what did you say, beautiful?
Yeah.
Oh, this guy
You
just
don't like
roasts it. Yeah, you guys will have to go take a look at the...
Okay, well, I haven't read the article. I just saw a photo.
The project. Well, he calls it Project Unoriginal.
Oh.
Unoriginal, unauthentic, not forward-looking, and does not emulate the Fijian brand or Fijian philosophy of life in any way.
Oh.
And it's a Fijian professor in Australia, I think, who talks about it. And I'm like, that hit home for me, like, reading about, or just the way that he phrased it, the way it doesn't fit the marketing or the branding of Fiji. Because when you think about it, you look at that, like
Well, it looks
picture the
nice.
beachfront in Miami, skyscrapers,
Yeah.
and you know, and then like a big marina in the front. Like that really, Fiji does have a vibe. I'm not saying that we have to stick with that vibe, like that tourism vibe, but I mean we do need to look after our environment. And this thing would like they were talking about like destroying 50 acres or something, 30 hectares I think of like mangroves and stuff like that,
Oh.
which would
Yeah,
yeah,
that's not
totally
great.
that would change that ecosystem forever, right?
Well, and not to mention like um we have cyclones and the population that live around there. Mangroves are good to keep the protection of the island and
Yeah.
shoreline and things like that. I'm not like an eco guru, but I think from living through a few cyclones, I can say let's keep some mangroves around because honestly, like the erosion that happens, we live on an island and it's not that big. So let's keep the land around as much as possible.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's a bit questionable. But
Hmm.
coming from the like at the other angle from the branding and marketing side of it, I was thinking about that today because there is a way, and people often think of when you say branding, marketing, you think of business. People don't really think of like locations, towns, like countries, and that's what we talked about before. I think on like episode number 3 or 4 was like marketing Fiji to the world, marketing the Pacific countries to the rest of the world, and how we need to like group together to take ourselves to market together because we're all so small. And I kind of came across something like that today, dealing with some signage problems that we're having in the town where we live,
Oh
and a
yeah.
big box store that came in and put up this huge sign in the town. And our sign that or we want to put up a sign, but we're having trouble like getting it authorized. And it's like that's one thing that people have to like think about when it comes to like towns and stuff like that too, is you put up these huge signs for these big stores that don't employ anybody in the town, and they just have the marketing budget to put up these huge gaudy looking signs in your town, and then they don't do anything for your community though.
Yeah, like the store that they're marketing for is in the next town that's 40 minutes away.
Yeah. And then when we are people who employ people in our community, and a sign would mean that more people get to see our business and know where to turn and how to get to us, meaning we could get busier, which means we need to employ more people. And it's a struggle. That's what I mean. Like, you have to take this branding and marketing thing also outside of business to churches, to towns, to countries, to rural areas, because that's what will make your community successful.
Yeah,
And I just don't
definitely.
think there's really a vision for where we are right now.
Well, and it's hard. Like we live in a really small junction. It's not even a town.
That's a new word for you.
Is it?
I think so.
I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, just throwing me off my thought. It's a new word for me. Like I don't use a plethora of words over here ever.
Well, junction.
All right,
You
junction,
adopted junction, and you also adopted shift.
shift. Yeah, that's a Fiji
I love that you
vocabulary
use
for
that
me.
word now.
I find it
Do
really
explain
nice.
shift, please.
Okay, no. Okay, what was I saying?
You're talking about how our town isn't even a town; it's a junction.
Oh yeah, and how like it's a junction and we're under the city's municipality that's far away and they don't even have enough money to do their drains and a bunch of other upkeep things that they're struggling with. And so our little area in Seaqaqa really gets neglected. Like the trash disposal is non-existent. You kind of just have to like picture a way to get rid of your garbage and hope it works
Yeah.
for everybody. And luckily, like people are really willing to help out. Like we have people across from us. I'm not going to name who, but they are very gracious and allow us to dispose of our garbage in their area in a certain way, and we make sure that it's clean. And they're very helpful with it, and so we appreciate that. But it's really hard. You have to be imaginative of
Yeah,
what.
you basically create your own landfills.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's really difficult. And you look around the community, and that's not a big priority. Like today, we were up on our landlord's veranda doing our office work, and John just looks down, and there's like some schoolgirls throwing their garbage into the drain. And you're like, yeah, that's what happens with hundreds of students every single day. And mostly because there's not a
Do
lot
you
of
think those
education around it,
so
and there's no garbage cans anywhere.
do you think those actions are learned, or like do you think you litter like that because you've seen it done, or because you don't know what else to do with what's in your hand?
I think it's a combo of both.
Hmm.
I think it's a combo of like, no one's ever told you not to.
Yeah.
When your mom and dad have garbage, they throw it on the ground. So obviously that's what you do with it. Like
Right.
when we're in Canada and your child goes to throw garbage on the ground, you yell at your child and you're like, how rude are you? That's so disrespectful of you. Give it to me or put it in your pocket and put it in a trash can. And we only do that because in school that's what we were taught. Our parents yelled at us because of that, and also you can get fined. It's illegal. I'm going to have to pay a huge ticket
Hmm.
if you throw rubbish on the ground or garbage on the ground.
Right.
Don't do that. And there's a garbage bin probably, I don't know, 20 feet from you.
Yeah.
So don't be lazy and don't give me a ticket, and it's not right.
That's true.
So it's not like something out of like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. Everybody has to be taught, and people only follow rules out of fear. Pretty much. Like in Fiji, I've
Yeah.
noticed there's not a lot of fear around rules.
Disposing of rubbish.
Well, there's no law against littering, is there?
I wouldn't say that. I don't know. I'm
That's why it's
50-50.
question mark.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know if it's that there's no laws or if it's just not enforced. So, and that's another thing that we struggle with in Fiji is over policing and under enforcement, I'd say. Not by police, by all all entities.
All governing,
Yeah, all governing entities. Not government. It's like governing entities. Like lots of rules, and so you randomly get like thrown under the bus because you broke a rule.
that
but
you
no,
didn't know
But
about.
you didn't know about. And you have all these rules that you have to follow, but nobody, like, especially in the application process of things, there's all these things you have to do. And like, it's like, why do you need that document from me? It makes no
Yeah.
difference. You can have this document. It has all the same information, but it's just like, no, but that's what the checklist says. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, and there's less fear of like, let's say you do something bad in your community, like you steal. Like a long time ago in our community, the women were collecting or harvesting honey. I think that's
Oh
the
yeah,
correct.
yeah.
And some random auntie that doesn't live in the village, distant relative, I think, stole all the money from that harvest. And I was living overseas at the time and heard that and went, oh, okay, so who reported her to the police? Like, what's going on with that? Like, how dare she steal all of that money from all these women that were working so hard? And everybody's like, nobody said anything. Like, it is what it is. And like,
That's classic.
she'll
Oh,
get her
she'll see.
turn.
You'll see.
And I'm like, yeah, but
Let
like,
it. It's okay.
she'll see when. And like,
When she dies.
when she dies, but we'll all die eventually.
She did die, I guess.
Eventually, but we all die eventually.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And then
Justice is served.
I was like, okay, but what happens the next time she steals from you? Like, you're just gonna be like, yeah, she'll get it. But like, it doesn't teach anybody like, hey, you can't steal from us. It's wrong.
Mm.
Like, there has to be some kind of consequence.
Now, the flip side of that, there's also a lot of beauty in just letting things go.
Definitely.
Yeah, like
there's
there's
forgiveness.
probably
There's turn the other cheek. I'm not going to say there's forgiveness in that because I don't think there's actually forgiveness in the action of like, she'll get it
yeah, that's true.
later.
I don't see a lot of forgiveness in it. Yeah,
But I would say there's like turn the other cheek. So
Yeah.
I don't know what.
for sure. Like actually, yeah, people in Fiji are 100% turn the other cheek people, and
Yeah.
like literally like, oh, they screwed me over. Hey, can I borrow some money? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I'm like, what?
Oh, they'll see.
I'm like,
Like,
how are
yeah.
you doing that?
They'll see your money, unlike you. You see your money go bye bye.
I don't know. I think it's like it's an interesting thing to watch, and being from the outside of culture, like it's definitely like an interesting thing to see. And I'm not sure. I am sure how I feel about it. I don't love it. I am of like rules should be put in place and people should not be allowed to treat you poorly. But I also have respect for people that they can let it go.
Right.
Because I cannot. So I don't know. It's a weird like feeling of like both. I'm like good and bad, and I think that's in any culture, like good and bad. Like in Canada, the rules are followed really strictly to a T, and sometimes there's not enough forgiveness for scenarios that need forgiveness
Yeah.
or turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
So I think like you can look at any society and go, oh well, that's wrong with society, coming from another place, or like I don't like that as much, but like there's good and bad everywhere. So, yeah.
I'm going to be very excited this next week.
Why?
We have some very exciting things happening. We have a new office space that we're renting.
Oh, yes.
We're very excited about. So we paid the first month's rent and our damage. Okay, it's not called damage deposit. What is it called here? Bounty.
Bounty on your head. I can remember. It's just called something. It's just your damage deposit.
Yeah.
That's our word right now. It's like if you damage the house, your deposit covers the damage. Where here it's called a bond. That's what it is.
A bond.
Bond. Yeah.
I much prefer damage deposit, I must say. Bond sounds like very, like my first child is given away, or what are we doing
I
here?
don't know.
Sounds really biblical. This is my bond.
Yeah, but we found like a cute 1-bedroom house.
Sick.
And yeah, really, again, the landlords seem really nice.
Oh yes.
We've been so lucky so far. Like we've picked really nice people to rent from.
Yeah.
Thus far.
Well, yeah, we haven't been in the place. We don't take possession until the 15th, so we get a good feeling from our landlords. But what this will allow us to do is actually have this podcast in a like production room, and
we can film it
and filmed, so you guys can watch us talking. And not that maybe some people want to, but for those of you who want to watch this on YouTube and stuff like that, they'll be there.
Yeah, and I actually went into town today, and I'm getting bean bags without the beans in it. We're doing shredded foam in these big bags to sit on, because I was looking for furniture in town to just like set up an office space or like a filming space. And number one, everything was so expensive, especially compared to Suva, because we have to ship it over here. And then everything's kind of, no offense, but like it was a piece of junk. Like I would kind of like shake the chair and the legs would be shaky. And like,
yeah.
Also it was a little too floral for me. There's a lot of flowers on everything.
So it'll allow us to have a podcast studio that is always set up and ready to go.
Yeah.
And
I found a gray material that makes John very happy.
Yes. So. It does make me happy. So we got to figure out the set. I think we need the Waka logo like in the middle, in the back, like behind us, in between where we sit.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to see, because we picked bean bags to start off with. That's going to be complicated for any decorator, and we'll just see how it goes. So
no, we got it.
You guys will get to see the final product eventually. And then also next week, happening on the same day that we get possession.
Oh yeah.
We also get we don't get, but we've hired.
It's way more exciting news than the office.
Way more exciting. We have the office because we are hiring someone to do video content for us. They're going to come live with us.
They're managing all our content.
Everything. So
he is managing all our content.
Yes. So film. His name is Tui.
What?
He's
talking about him already?
Why not?
We might need to edit that out.
I don't think so.
No?
Anyway, Tui's coming on board with us. Tui, if you back out now, your name's on public record. Yeah.
We're stoked.
Yeah, we've got some new equipment coming in. Well, not much, but he already knows about that, so we're kind of excited.
Yes.
He's going to be living in the house with us full time.
So you guys are going to see way more of us, and like not just way more of us, like, on this episode we're just kind of like just talking about whatever, but actual like content.
Joshing.
We're just joshing. That is such a Canadian term. Dude, that is such a Canadian term.
Just joshing.
Just joshing.
Yeah.
Just crushing some Daryls over here.
Just talking. Yeah. So sorry. John's getting distracted.
Joshin means like just shooting the shit, basically.
Hey, watch your mouth.
He's just talking about nothing. So he will be living with us, and like we'll just be able to put out so much more content. Like the other day, I was at the Della farm, just filming things together, or just filming things together with myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wasn't there.
Yeah, and sometimes it feels like I'm together with somebody because I'm actually like talking to my phone. But I had all the content, I edited it up, and I'm like, oh, I need subtitles on this.
Just you going down the road, me and my best friend.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, the other day I was like getting that bundle of bananas that I put on like a YouTube short, and I think on some other platforms. And I'm like, man, if people like walk through the bush right now, they just hear me like talking to myself about just complete utter nonsense. They'd have no idea. They'd be like, what is this guy doing? So anyways, Tui will be able to follow me around and like take the footage, edit it, and release it. Like,
yeah,
boom, like right now, and build things up so that like we can actually have like quality content. So like we always say, the process that we've been doing up till now is just like content through documentation, just like only having the ability to document what we do, never like, or very rarely coming up with an idea and creating the content outside of like the idea that we like, okay, we need to do this so that it really gets more views. We haven't done anything for views. So this will allow us the ability to be like, hey, what do you guys want to see? Okay, we're going to put this on the list. This is now going on the board. Now we're going to go out and do it and get that. Like, you guys want to see this part of Fiji? Let's go get it done.
Yeah, and we've got some exciting things in the work. Even last week, we were speaking with Christine from Phoenix Creative.
Yeah.
We're just talking about some ideas about how we can get some merch out there.
Yeah.
That's just in the background. We're gonna have like weekly talks and see if we can sort something out. Just to give you guys more access to that, because obviously it's hard getting shipping from our island. And she lives in Suva, and she's fantastic to work with. So we're pretty excited that that's all happening. And then,
the direction we see. Can we talk about the merch stuff?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Why not? Whatever.
Like the direction that I want to go in with this merch, like our merchandise, like being like, shirts and hoodies that we've released in the past. I've been like R&D-ing like a outerwear kind of like fishing hoodie. You guys have seen the blue camel Waka hoodie, and it's held up really well. So there's some things like clothing items, apparel, hats, stuff like that we want to be able to release, but we just haven't had the time to put into it to market it properly for you guys. And like, we're not looking to be some like super high-end limited run brand, like there is some really, really cool clothing companies in Fiji and good clothing designers, but just something that the average person like who wants to rep our brand and believes in like what we stand for can rep. And that would look like, I've had random thoughts like, hey, what if in like pineapple season we release like the pineapple drop, and you can get like pineapple shorts or like a pineapple bucket hat like with our branding on it. And like rainy season, we have like umbrellas or like gumboots and stuff like that. Like that would be where I'd want to go with it. And eventually not just printing our brand on shirts, but like going and sourcing the materials and like really building out like a full brand.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. I think that would be like a passion project for us.
Yeah.
Something that would be like, oh, this is something I actually find like interested,
connect with.
Yeah, and like some joy out of. I think we'd have some great people, even in the background, that would love to do some designing with us and things like that. So I don't know, it would just be fun to venture out in that. But we've done like dabbling in it, but it's just so hard trying to ship things in from China and not having enough access on this island to different suppliers in Fiji. So it's I think it's gonna be great meeting with Christine and seeing out what we can actually source, what we can figure out that's reasonable, and get her to put that out there for us. So and we also need to start building a website and things like that for y'all. So yeah, I can't wait.
We're also going to Canada.
Oh yeah, July 14th we fly into Canada, and then I'm there till the end of August. John's coming back, I think,
a bit
around
earlier,
the 11th of August. Yeah.
So yeah, so we're going to There's something that we wanted to do when we first came was like be able to go back often, but I am so excited to go fishing up north in Saskatchewan.
Okay, number one,
Yes.
John goes fishing on the ocean all the time, and it is like so epic. And then
It's so true.
he's like, all I want to do is go fishing up
With my
north in
dad. Okay.
Canada with my dad for these like slimy little fish
Oh, okay.
with all the mosquitoes that you might as well just get picked up by the mosquitoes and flown away.
True.
That, yeah, John's like really amped. I'm excited for it, but like, this is
I'm
the
stoked.
reality of that.
You know what we gotta do? So there's a huge set of rapids. So the lakes or this one lake system that we go to in northern Saskatchewan is actually a huge river system, but the river is so wide that they're like miles and miles and miles wide. So it's like a lake, but there is a gentle flow. But sometimes it gets really tight, and it turns into rapids. So there's this one section that's like these huge rapids. And you go through the rapids into a lake, up another set of rapids, into another lake, up more rapids, and you can go like way, way, way out into the middle of nowhere, into the boonies, as they say in Canada. That's another one. Joshin and the boonies.
The boonies.
The boonies just like being the wilderness. So there's a jet boat that you can rent, and he'll take you like way up. The
Yeah,
kids would lose their
Oh,
mind.
they would love that. That's true.
We gotta look into that.
Well, it is interesting. Like last time we went to Canada, the kids are on holiday there, so everybody's spoiling them, taking them out to do the coolest things, the funnest things, and they're like, Canada is so sick. It's awesome. It has the best things, and we're like, guys, if you lived here, you would just be like any other kid, not doing these awesome things every day. So like,
It's not real.
it's not real, and you would actually be in the snow all the time. So I'm not saying that life isn't great there, but like, hey guys, you climb trees and go in rivers and like every single day. And like yesterday, the boys came riding up on horses with their like their small uncles
So
and
true.
bareback, and they were just like, oh yeah, we were just going through the river bareback and like riding up the hill. Oh, and they just thought it was like so cool, which it was so cool. And I was just laughing like, you guys don't even know you have like this epic little life, and you're living a kid's dream, and you'll look back and go, wow, we had the best childhood, I hope. But right now, sometimes when we do things like take you to an arcade, you're like, oh, mind blown, because you're outdoors all the time. But you don't realize that outdoors is way cooler than being stuck in a little box house and going to an arcade every few months.
Yeah.
You know? It's just very different. So,
But for now, they get spoiled when they go to Canada.
yeah.
I
And
guess.
I'm glad, because I want them to love visiting their family, have a good time. And then if we ever have to move back there, I also want them to think that they're moving back to somewhere cool. And if they're disappointed, that's fine.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's hard to leave the place that is actually home. So,
Which is Fiji.
which is Fiji now.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and I don't think we'd ever have to. I don't think the next stage of this life is like moving anywhere.
I hope
I
not.
think it's just moving around,
Yeah.
going and being where you want when you want.
I think it's just back and forth. Like,
Yeah.
that's what we envision, is just kind of being half here, half there. And that's not like 6 months there. It'd be like multiple trips back and forth when we want to, when it's convenient, when it's fun.
Yeah.
Go visit people if we're lonely.
Make sure the businesses here are killing it.
Yeah. And
And-
our business in Canada is doing better.
Yeah, because eventually, like, I don't even think like we'll be only based in Fiji. Like that's not that's not the vision for the company.
No.
Like by 2030, got to be the most dominant one in the South Pacific.
All right. Keep saying it out loud. It's going to pressure you to work harder.
Oh yeah, it's happening. It's happening. We're on our way there.
Yeah, I think
We're on our
so.
way there.
And I was speaking with our manager in Canada today, just on the drive home. And I was just telling her, yeah, like it's been a little bit hard being far away from the business. Like when I'm working in the business in Canada, I'm doing more. I'm like, I can dream more. And like when I'm in Fiji, I'm just so immersed and wrapped in our lives here and like dreaming about what we could do here. So I am excited to go back home. I'm spending extra time in Canada because I'm covering for our manager for her holidays. And I'm just kind of excited to be able to like just sit in the business and like the kids will be with my mom and dad. And so I won't even have the distraction of them for 2 weeks. So I'm just going to get to just like sit in the business and go like, what does it need? What's the next thing?
Hmm.
Where do we push this to? You
Well, when
know,
we were home for over like just before Christmas, we were even like, okay, we know we need to. We need to do this and do that,
yeah.
and we just didn't have the opportunity, the
Well,
chance.
yeah, a little bit of the opportunity. We got a little bit of like, maybe like negative feedback on some of our plans that deterred us. So I think like
Yeah,
all
from
in
one
all, I
person.
think like, yeah, but I think all in all, like it's good to go back and kind of go, what's next? Because I think if we're not developing something or moving it forward, it's just slowly dying,
Oh, for sure.
right?
Yeah.
So I think what's next is happening. And I think that's also what we're doing with the coffee shop with the pizza is like, okay, I think we've got a handle on what we're currently doing. We've kept it really small and simple, to make sure our staff could tackle that to the best of their abilities. And now we're going, okay, so it's needing a new something. What is that? And everybody loves
Not that
pizza.
adding a new thing is always the answer.
No,
Yeah, that's not what we're saying.
no, but I think we know that we've kept our menu so simple, so not everybody comes in because they want food. And there's actually no restaurants in Seaqaqa currently
Yeah.
that I know of. There might have been a new one that
So we about to
opened,
take
but
over the no restaurants.
well, and again, who doesn't love pizza? Come
Yeah.
on, cheese and bread, it's a staple of life.
What did you learn in your Bibles this week? We'll start with me.
Yeah, you gotta
So
go first.
I finished off Genesis now, and yeah, the last part of Genesis talks about, it follows the story of Joseph, who was um, the younger brother in a big family, and he was having like dreams that were kind of his brothers didn't like. Like he was like, oh, my dreams mean that like I get to be in charge of you guys at the end of my life, and or at for further on down the road. And his brother's like, who are you? Like you don't do any hard work. You just kind of like your daddy's boy, and you don't have calloused hands and you don't sweat. And so they got really angry at him and they threw him in a pit overnight, and then they sold him to like some slave owners who took him to Egypt, where he worked for Pharaoh and ended up working his way up to be like Pharaoh's right hand man. Then there was this huge uh, famine in the whole the whole region, and it turns out that Joseph's family comes to him because he's managing everything for Pharaoh, seeking him for food. And then in the end he ends up giving them food. He plays a few games with them. It's a really really interesting story actually. And in the end he gets reunited with his brothers. His dad comes back because his brothers had told his dad that he was killed, which wasn't true. And then right at the end his dad dies. Jacob dies, and his brothers get worried like, oh, now that dad's gone, like Joseph's definitely gonna like mess us up because he's gonna be angry. And Joseph's like, you know what, guys, like if you hadn't done, I understand now that if you hadn't done what you did, I wouldn't have gotten to this point. And it was all in the plan, in God's plan, that you guys did what you did, and now I'm here and you guys are here, and I was in the position to be able to save my whole family from the famine. And so that was encouraging to me, because just being able to zoom out and look, sometimes like I know in the moment I don't have perspective. Like I have more perspective than I did 3 years ago when I first moved to Fiji, but I'm still on earth. I'm still living in the moment. And every year that goes by, I get a bit older and I get a bit more perspective, and I'm able to appreciate things a bit more. And so Joseph's perspective and his forgiveness is what stood out to me. And so just to be able to calm down and realize that each thing, and it's super cliche, but each thing is happening for a reason, but also that those things that are happening are actually shaping me and you, Stephanie, to become the people that we need to be to deal with future situations. So that's what I learned from the story of Joseph. I recommend everybody go read it. Like even if you're not into Christianity or whatever, it's an interesting story. It's a fun read. Like I've never Honestly, guys, like I've never really dug the Old Testament a lot. Like I've read it, I've read through it, but it's always been kind of a slog. I haven't really enjoyed it that much. And like at least going through Genesis, like that was fun. Had
Mm.
fun with that one.
I'm currently reading in Psalms. So, they have all these kind of like, seems like poems almost, like as you read them.
Most of them are songs of David.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like it's really interesting to like read through someone, and a lot of them are like talking about like praising God and rejoicing, and also talking about like trust in the Lord and do good, and dwell in the land and enjoy safe pastures. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. That's just one of the passages, and I always find sometimes like those verses really difficult to read, and I don't know why. Like, in the sense of like, I do believe that like if you serve God with your whole heart, um, that He'll make a way for you, and you will glorify Him in the things that you do, and like, but He will make a way for you in the way that He wants to, and like the desires of your heart. I don't like I think like sometimes like it's all the like biblical verses have different translations, so I'd want to go through like different versions of that. But sometimes like when I translate it straight, and feel free to correct me, but like when I look at it and translate it for myself, I think like the desires of my heart. Well, my heart does not always have good desires. So like maybe that's something that like the Holy Spirit or God translate in the way of like, okay, your desires are ultimately like this, but like we can get you that by giving you this path, and your heart will change along the way for something that's honoring to God. Does that make sense? Like the desires of your heart are not always right. So God will maybe either change the desires of your heart or take you on a path to that goal,
Yeah.
and it will change along the way for something that actually glorifies
Well, the
God.
key part of that particular verse is delight in the Lord,
Yeah.
right? So if you um say for example in a family situation, if your kids bring you little to no happiness, then and you don't seek to be fulfilled by your family, and you're only fulfilled by success at work or climbing your way up the up into the upper management or whatever you want to do at work, and you just come home and your kids are a problem and your wife ticks you off, then like your the desires of your heart, like your kids will not make you happy, and you'll forever feel like you're missing something at home, and you'll only feel like you have it at work. So the same thing with God. Like if you're not delighting in Him, then your desires will not be like aligned with that.
Yes. Okay, that's right. That's kind of what I was like,
Yeah.
I think, getting at in the long version. I definitely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is kind of, it's something where I think like when you look at the desires of your heart, you have to go, okay, like a lot of people be like, yeah, but I'm like loving God, but He's not like making me filthy rich, but that's not like a desire that's God honoring, right? Like that's not what we're here for and the purpose of living in this world for.
Yeah.
So it's a silly expectation, I think. And like if you're delighting in God and actually seeking after God and His will, that's maybe like money serves a purpose in life and can do great things and benefit people. But like ultimately, if you're seeking after doing things for people or serving God, if He gives you money to do those things, that's great. But like the purpose, the end goal can't just be or should not be, money or something along those lines. So yeah, that's just kind of what I was reading this week, and just kind of like, when you read it, I think at face value, you're like, oh, desires of my heart. And then you're like, well, what do I want in life? And then you have to go, okay, are those like honoring to God? Are those desires actually good desires? And am
Mm.
I delighting in God? And like question yourself in that way. And I would say like, so it's 50-50 sometimes. Like I have desires that are not God honoring in the sense of like the ultimate purpose of them. They're selfish sometimes.
Right.
Right. So I think like it's good to kind of reflect what's like I'm delighting in God purpose and what's like a selfish purpose that I'm, chasing after.
Right.
So yeah, things like that.
Things like that. And I think
Things like that.
we've talked about it so much in the last while, and probably I think even on some podcasts, like just money's just a tool. And it is not, it will not bring you delight, and it will bring you temporary happiness, but it will not bring you delight, and it will not fulfill your desires, because you have all the money in the world and still feel quite empty.
Well, and I think you were even saying to me today, like, we're in a weird situation here where we've been in Fiji for 3 years. We've sold everything that we've accumulated for the last 9 years in Canada. And in Canada, we used to be the people, or we, at least we felt like we were the people that could give to our friends, like give them our time, give them our resources, give them, I don't know, just like a hand with whatever they wanted and be like decent friends to people, hopefully. And here, like John and I feel like we're constantly taking from people because we have less than they do because we haven't built a life. And not in the sense that like we're taking physical things, but we're taking like a space in their house, or they're inviting us to their space, or taking us out on their boat. And I don't know, like it's hard in like two senses of like, I think number one, ego. I think that's probably like hard because you're like, oh, like I should be at a place, or I used to be at a place where I could do that.
Yeah, like I had all the things that I
that you
kind
wanted.
of needed in Canada. Like I mean, we didn't own a big house or a bunch of fancy vehicles or whatever.
Yeah, but we were good with our money, and you had toys and fun things, and it was fun to share. And then I think on the other hand, like, okay, number one's ego, because like, well,
I didn't realize how much giving my stuff away was fulfilling. Like, cause I knew it was. Like, I enjoyed being the guy who had the things to give away.
Yeah.
Or like to share with other people.
Yeah.
Like the extra tent, or the extra chainsaw, or whatever that was.
Well, and I think like that's like the blessing of like being able to give to people is like you feel fulfilled in the sense of like, oh, like I'm so happy that like I made them happy. And so it's like a weird reverse table where you're like, I used to be able to do that. So you have to deal with like, okay, I'm not there anymore. So that kind of hurts my ego. And then also like, it's good to learn like a lesson of like humility, to be like, now I have to be the one like taking, even though it's freely offered and like people are gracious or they're friends with you and like they want you to come, but you're like, okay. Like,
yeah. So tomorrow I'm going to a friend's farm because we were supposed to do this like last year. Like I'd mentioned like, oh, next time we go to your farm, like I'll come with you. And I've actually been finding like a lot of joy just being out on the farm this last week. For whatever reason, I've just been out there every morning for a couple hours, and I've been really, really enjoying it. And so we ran into each other in town the other day. And usually I go spearfishing with him, and that's kind of like when we hang out. But on his boat, on his time, like I'll pitch in for fuel and stuff like that. But I told Stephanie today, I was like, yesterday, I was like, I don't just want to always go and hang out with him when it's fun for me or when it's doing the thing that I love the most, fishing, and he's the one with the thing. Like, I've also been enjoying the farm lately, and I would like to go and see his farm, and it'd be nice to be a friend who's not just there to be a friend when it's convenient and when it's good for me. Like, to also be there like, hey, I'll help out on your farm. Like, let's do this. Let's go work together because I'm your friend.
Yeah.
Like, I want to hang out with you, not just because of what you have.
And like, what a weird like situation, because I think like in Canada, that's just easy and natural to be like, oh, you're moving, or you need help with, I don't know.
Or like we're going out for lunch. Like, I'll buy you lunch.
Yeah, I'll buy you lunch, or like you're doing like this big project, I could come help you with it. Like, it seems like you're doing a bake sale. Okay, would you like help baking? Like, it all seems pretty like easy to jump in and just be like, yeah, we could totally do that together. I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
And then here, it's like, I think we're maybe just like figuring out like what could we help with that seemed like a good fit for us, or like that we'd be an asset to, or not just like an annoyance,
Yeah.
or like where do I spend time with people outside of just like, I don't know, like the really cool things that they do.
Yeah.
Because to me, like even like friendship wise, I'm happy like, hey, let's hang out. Well, you're grocery shopping? Okay, I'll come grocery shopping with you. Like
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
that's
Yeah.
time spent. I'm excited to do that with you. Where a lot of people are like, oh, that's a burden for you. And it's like, no, let's like hang out and chat. Doesn't matter where it is. And like, I'm sorry, but our area, like when we go to Mombasa, it's not like there's like a lot of like cool, interesting things to do as friends. You're not like, let's go to town and like go to the hardware store.
Let's go buy nails and rubber boots.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. What is there to do? So, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna play the game. The game is We Are Not Really Strangers. This is level 1 called Perception. So it's a question game. It's just a conversation starter game. The question today is for you, Stephanie. What do you think I'm most sensitive to during a fight or disagreement? I can answer this question right now. That's why I picked it.
Say it.
If I call you a liar, that like
Oh,
sets you off.
yeah.
I'm like, no, that's not what. No, you didn't say that.
And
Are
the
you
thing
calling me a
is,
liar?
you do it on purpose when you're like, I know you do. That's also what makes me mad.
What?
Yeah.
Come on.
'Cause
So
you know what it
it's
is.
not- it's not good. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that's a
Yeah.
fact of the matter.
Don't fight dirty.
Do not. And don't call your spouse a liar.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm not saying this like it works out well for me.
No, it
Guys.
does not work out well for him. I can promise you that. What sets you off in a fight? Well, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things. Like, well, obviously, if I name call you, you don't like that, but that's not like your biggest issue. I think like what sets you off the most is if I won't let like one subject drop, but it's something that like you have to deal with. Like if I'm putting it on you, like you need to deal with this. This is your problem. Like you, like when it's not like so much like a fight between us, like you saying something to me, but when I'm like, you have to deal with this, like, you
Right.
know, like I'm at you.
I think this is like a very specific
This is
reference
very
to something that
specific.
just happened like maybe
Yeah.
yesterday. So you basically have no answers. You're just picking up something that's fresh and like a fresh wound.
Because
All right,
it's
guys,
not that
this is a very honest moment here.
it's not that it sets you off, it makes you shut down. And that's how John gets set off. Because you don't like amp up, you ramp down. Like you
Right.
you're like, I'm done, shut it off.
The problem is the language barrier in that situation.
Yes.
So it's like really, really hard to like. It's hard in life to deal with situations and like say things. Like I've actually decided, like like this year, I've spent the last few years in Fiji being like very kind and like overly polite, and I just decided the other day that I'm done, and it's
I don't
no
know.
more Mr. Nice Guy.
I don't know about
So
this
you guys
decision.
are gonna hear the pissed off version
And
of Jonathan.
John's like typically very strategic on how he speaks to people.
Yeah, so it might be problematic.
And like very cautious, and you're still going to be cautious. I actually am encouraging this method because I see nothing wrong with it. It's more direct. And I think like
yeah, I just think I'd be
a
more effective leader if I can just say what needs to be said and put people in their
Yes.
place.
Yeah. And I think like in life and in business, like our manager at the coffee shop, I've been working with this like with her and just saying like you, when you start leading people, you will emotionally struggle to do the hard things or call people out or say what you need to say. And after you've done it a few times, you will get a little bit more numb to those feelings,
Yeah.
like those like overwhelming emotions that you have. And it's a good and like it's good and bad all at the same time. Like it's good in the sense that like you are able to communicate and say the things that have to be said. It's only bad if you allow it to trickle into your personal life, and you stop caring so much, I guess. But
Pretty much.
I think like it's good in the sense that like people know where you're at and you don't hide and you say what you need to say in the moment and don't leave it till next week,
Yeah.
because that also
That's
can
what I would
become a
encourage everybody to
problem.
do after listening to this podcast this week. is if there's a situation in front of you this week where you need to say something that is a bit difficult to say, but needs to be said, ask yourself and recognize the situation and say the thing. That's it.
Well, and also, no, I would preface it with there is always a way to say it in a more loving way, I
Yeah.
guess. Like, I'm not the best at like political speech and like making sure it's really nice, but I have a really angry way of saying something. And then I have a way at coming at it like, well, I'm saying this to you because I love you, and what you're doing
It's
is either
dumb.
wrong or inappropriate or whatever the situation
Right.
is. But I can either come in like full, like guns blazing, or I can take a breath, sit there for a couple seconds and go, how do I phrase this to make sure I'm not ripping their head off for no reason?
Yeah.
And like, where's my anger level supposed to actually be? I think like those things are good to gauge, but I think it's best not to sit back for too long. Like a lot of times I have like a very like quick reaction to things, and then I'll have some moments that kind of make me uncomfortable, and those are the moments that I know, oh, you did not react to it right away, and that's good, because I needed like an hour to like calm down and think it through, and then I go address it. But I still try to address it within the same day or the next day. Like I don't let it sit or stew. I just like want to get it off my plate, because I actually obsess over things like that. Like I won't stop thinking about it until I've like addressed it. Where John can let things go, and you have like a way of just being like, okay, I'm not thinking about this anymore. Where I'm like, it gets worse in my head. Like I'm like, I ramp things up. So I'm like, let's just get it done.
Strategize it and
Release it.
release it. But do it quicker. All right, guys.
Yeah.
No more Mr. Nice Guy. We'll see you next week. We're out.
Okay. Bye, guys.